We can't hear you, man. Can you hear us? It might be because your headphones are in. Unless, because I think if they're plugged in, they have to have a mic. Oh, the message, the dinging. Okay, so let's just roll. Okay, so here's what it really comes down to. We need to vote and see who thinks that Doug should accept the offer. I vote sure. I think he should accept the offer. What do you guys think?
I think he shouldn't.
Shouldn't.
Yeah, don't accept the offer.
Shouldn't.
I'm leaning to he should accept the offer.
Ooh. I got Joel, guys.
He's got the old man on his side.
Wisdom. All right, Alex, what do you think? Oh, he's gone.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
So close.
All right, so
Tiebreaker, right?
yeah, I guess the pressure was too much. So we voted. Hooray! What's the next question? Okay, start your discussion with those
Well, I
who
think
say
50-50 is good conversation.
Say what? Start your discussion with those who say Doug should accept the turn offer. If no one votes for that option, come up with the reasons why you should take the offer, even if no one thinks that's a good idea. So, Joel, why do you think that Doug should take the offer?
Here's one of my my main reasoning is in my experience in hiring and managing a lot of people over the years, I've come to find out that some either have the ability to do certain things or they don't. And if you try to put them in a position that they're not really suited for, then they struggle and ultimately will gravitate to whatever they're good at and ignore whatever they struggle with. And when I read this case study, it made me feel like Doug was a particular individual that didn't have a lot of business acumen, really didn't have the stomach for it either. It made him feel really uncomfortable. It stressed him out. It created a lot of pressure on him. Hearing type guys that just want to be in front of his computer, developing, figuring out a problem, and contributing that type of effort to a greater business cause. But for him to responsibility, that much involvement, that kind of thing, I think just really puts him in a really bad spot. With the turn option, he immediately is set for life. So security is a big issue with him, I think. So he has security, and now he can just program, he can just engineer, he can work with this new company, and he'll own stock in that new company to the tune of like 2 million shares. And really, I think he's set. Now, I can see why everybody else does not want him to do it. They all see an opportunity, but he was the one that figured out the deal. And to me, I think he should just get rewarded for it at this point and continue to move on. The other's going to stress him out, I think.
Well, you brought up a point where if he sells, he gets $2 million in this new company. I understood it as if he sells, he just gets $2 million. He's bought out and he's out of the game.
Well, it's true. So he gets $2 million cash. Then he also gets $2 million worth of preferred stock, which usually gives him some power inside the board of directors. So, well, depending on how diluted $2 million is worth. But that's a good point. So either he starts his own thing, or he's completely bought out, and he's still kind of with his own invention because he owns stock in it. You know what I mean? So, but I like what Joel said, because it seems less about numbers, because I think technically he could make a killing later on. He could dilute his shares a little bit and have it get bought and sold by the venture capitalists, and then a couple years down the line they sell the company for $300 million, and that's a lot of money. But then he would only get a piece, and it's kind of uncertain how much he would get if he'd be diluted so far that he wouldn't get much, even though he invented the darn thing. So I don't know. On a certainty basis, and especially with his focus seeming to be on his family, he could take the money and be done.
Yeah, one last thing I can contribute on that is that there's a lot of different motivating behaviors that people have, and economics is one of them. Economics is a major driving behavioral influence for Doug. He seems to be a guy that could be happy with $100 versus $1,000. You know, it isn't going to define him in any way, and it's not going to make him happier or sadder. Now, I think certainly makes him feel very secure, and I don't think he'll feel like he has to money for any, you know, from that point on. So, but yeah, where other people might have a higher economic drive, I don't really see him as having one of them, and more money maybe stress him out even more.
And maybe to play a little bit of the devil's advocate, I mean, how much would he actually get out of the cash? It says that there were some angel investors that kicked in $300,000 and stipulated in the money that they kicked in, if they were bought out, their investments would double, which means that of the $2 million, $600,000 would go to pay to the angel investors. So he's only getting 1.4, and then losing 40% in taxes. It's not a lot of money. Sure, he's got a lot of preferred stock that he could sell later on, but something to consider. Sure, you know, taxman wants a piece, and so do the investors. It'd be nice if you just sit with the $2 million. But that's a good point. He seems to be happy with whatever he can get. You might not have thought that his invention would be worth anything, and now people are offering him millions of dollars for it. So it's kind of a big deal.
On that same note, that's how I took it as well. Was he definitely, you can tell security is what he cares about, not necessarily a lot of money. Except in all reality, like $2 million is not that much, and it really wouldn't last super long, especially with kids and everything. And then, yeah, paying out those angel investors and everything. And so I thought even if he waited a little while and kind of just like, and it sounds like he's already kind of struggling for money, so a little bit longer wouldn't kill him, especially if he's still profiting some. And then he could even sell it later on for more and have more money to make him more secure that would last him longer than just $2 million. So
that's what I was thinking too. I was thinking the same thing. I mean, he just kind of has to weigh out the risk involved, because, you know, maybe a couple years down the road something happens where the company just goes under, and then he's kind of, you know, out of luck. But with that, with not selling, he's able to, that risk is higher, but the reward is far greater. So it just kind of depends on kind of what he, like Joel and Howard were saying, kind of what his priorities are. And if he's content with just, you know, being secure and just kind of not dealing with the stress and of all the venture capitalists firms and investors kind of coming down on him and doing all that stuff. But it just kind of, it's all dependent on what he specifically wants for security.
Yeah, I feel like
What value would you put on turn stock? It doesn't tell us, but let's just say it's $25 a share. I mean, that's another $50 million he's got.
Yeah, I don't know what they meant by $2 million worth of stock. Is it $2 million the fair market value per share? Is it the par value per share? Is it 2 million shares? Who knows? But
just $2 million in whatever. So I don't know.
So you're saying that it's 2 million in
I think
value.
well, it said specifically $2 million in preferred stock, so I think that's valued at $2 million. Whether it's dependent on how much each share is worth.
Okay.
That's how I took it.
I'm sure I think it's also kind of a newish company. It's kind of a startup, which it could, just like many startups, crash and burn. It becomes worthless. And on the other end, he could wait a couple of years and double it or triple it. So I guess taking either option, going for it or taking a buyout, it could be a wash. It could be a huge success. But I think you guys bring up a good point in thinking, what's his motivation? But I don't know, what, as you know, business students and accounting students and all that stuff, what's the best financial option? What gives him, what gets the most money? Like, forget what Doug wants. What would you want? What do you think would yield the best results for you? Joel and I are kind of in, it's safe, and that sounds good. I think of my little family getting a couple $1 million right now, we'd be set for life. But, well, not for life, but we'd be set for now, buy a house and then start a career and all that good stuff. But on the other end, there's this option of making an obscene amount of money. So what's the best option?
financially, I think he should stay in it. I mean, it's high risk, high reward, but I feel like the reward is higher than the risk. I think the reward outweighs the risk at this point. I feel like he's got a lot going with him, with Shields willing to come on board, even if he comes in at 50%. I mean, if they were able to build their business hypothetically to one of the firms that sold for $300 million a few years down the road, like the ones they talked about, like it had the potential for. It wasn't necessarily going to be that, but potentially, if it were to sell for $300 million, even if his share was diluted all the way down to 1%, he would still get $3 million, which is higher than $2 million. And I feel like 1% is like, if he diluted his stock like crazy, I'm assuming he'd still have at least 2%. I'm thinking he'd have more than that. So I feel like he has real potential there to make a lot of money. But at the same time, I mean, Joel was brought up, and Corbin, everyone's brought up what are his motives. But I think financially, just from a pure business standpoint, I think he should stay in it. Maybe when you bring in what he wants, what he's looking for, what makes him happy, what takes stress off his back, maybe he should sell. But just from a strict financial standpoint, I think the high risk is rewarded by a potentially even bigger reward.
So you're seeing it there's not a lot of risk. You see the product is going to be successful no matter what. Is that more or less kind of what it is?
I mean, I don't think it's going to be successful no matter what, but I think they have a pretty solid game plan at this point to create a successful product. And if someone's already willing to come buy him out at $2 million, it's not because he has nothing going for him.
What about, it talked about in the case that they struggled to tell and talk to other venture capitalists what they even had. What if they suffer the same way in selling the product?
Well, I feel like venture capitalists are just out. They want to know your business model and what you're going to do. And I feel like with the tech savvy, with it being such a tech savvy product, it's probably hard to explain to them. But I'm sure businesses out there are running into the, what was it? The advertising issue with inventory. I mean, I guess that's briefly how they explained it. If any advertising business out there is running into that issue, he'd immediately be able to show up on their doorstep and be like, hey guys, I've got a solution for you. I mean, I figure he's not out trying to solve an issue that people aren't running into.
And he's like the only one who's come up with it as well. Like, it might be hard to initially get people to want his product, just like he's having a hard time getting people to invest. But through like time and hard work and kind of like promoting his own business, like it's something that is actually really needed in society, and nobody else has come up with it. And they said like for the last 10 years, people have been trying to like crack it and they haven't been able to. And so there's a lot of like good indicators that it has a lot of chance for success.
So you guys trust in a product, even if it's not super communicable to others. You think that it's going to take off and we're going to be okay, and that outweighs the risk of losing. I don't know.
I have
Doug didn't kick in any money. He just spent time. He invented it.
He doesn't have. He has time invested. I mean, if it flops,
big deal.
Then at the end of the day, he's got upset investors, and he's just out on the job market putting out like resumes. It's not like he's double mortgaged his house and has everything to lose. I mean, he just needs to go out and find a job if it flops. I mean, which would be crappy because he wouldn't get his $2 million. But I mean, if it does work, then he's got a job for the rest of his life, potentially, or a good nest egg for the rest of his life if it sells when it starts doing really well.
So why not? Just go for it.
Yeah.
I think the case study says that he would continue to be able to work with Smolin, who works at Turn. So I think he has an avenue of being able to continue on and do engineering work with Turn. So he'll still has an opportunity to stay in the business. I've just looked at this from the type of individual he is. You guys mentioned his presentations to the venture capitalists and him struggling to be able to communicate what it was, and I think that's another clear sign of, this guy just doesn't have the skill set to do what a business owner or a business executive would need to do. And he openly admits, I don't want to deal with people. I don't want to deal, with all of that. I think that I'm just looking at it from him, what he should do for himself. And me, I'd be like, hey, I'm in it for the long haul, but off in his shoes, to me, it would, and he's also feeling pressure from home too, to not. It doesn't sound like his wife is really into taking a big risk either, and Jeannie can tell you, I'm sure, that when the wife's not happy at home, no one's happy at home either.
Yep.
Happy wife, happy life.
There you go.
So I guess if he were to take the buyout, he would lose $600,000 back to the Angels investors, and apparently, as it's stated in this case, he would lose 25% of the preferred stock also to the investors. So it's not looking
That's
so
brutal.
good. Thanks to it's brutal. Sure, the angel investors, they don't have a right to stop the sale. It's 100% with Doug, but a good portion of it, unfortunately, is going to be absorbed by them because they kicked in $300,000. It was completely up in the air. No one knew it was going to be taken off, and so that's, I guess, what they deserve.
What do you guys think about a counteroffer? Say, hey guys,
I think ask for more.
I see your offer, but here's where I stand. I've got all these investors I need to pay back, and I want to pocket $2 million. So what you gonna do about that?
Maybe he feels bad. It seems like maybe his friend is sticking his neck out for him. It's like, hey, you're my friend, for a colleague from this other business, and I've convinced the board of directors to buy your company for like $4 million. How cool am I? And then you come back and say, hey, actually, I want 10. Like, oh, well, you're a jerk.
And I think it all comes back down to his personality, exactly like what Joel was talking about. Like, he's not a very gutsy guy. He is very heartfelt. He just doesn't want to hurt anybody. And I don't think he would ask for anything. They could probably lower it, and he would still probably accept it just because of his personality type.
I would also disagree.
Go big or go home.
Howard, I'd also disagree with the evaluation of what he would get. The mentioned only happen if he goes to a Series A investment. You get 25% discount. That's where their initial investment goes up to $156,667 per investor, that kind of thing. But on a cash buyout, they only get 8% on their $100,000 each, and that's it. So that's the way I kind of read that.
Oh, I'm reading from the case discussion. It says, since half of the buyout offer is in cash, you need to treat it as cash sale and give the investors 2 times their investment in cash. But
where does it say that?
Sorry, it says it in the Yieldex case discussion.
I thought it mentioned it somewhere up in the study where they talked about the initial investors.
So it would be $600,000 he'd end up
losing.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So I'm reading in here. It's under the starting Yieldex part of the case study, and it's right at the end. It says something about Cosman Doug beginning to take an annual salary of $120,000 a year.
Good for him.
What's that?
So out of the $300,000 that was kicked in by angel investors, he decided, because it's an investment towards him and his company, he just said, I'm going to take $120,000 annual salary because I'm cool and I made the thing. So
he would be taking that. So if he didn't sell the company or whatever, if he didn't sell the product to Turn, then he would be making that much money a year. Is that what I'm getting from it?
Until it's $300,000.
That's what I understood.
What was that?
Until his $300,000 ran out, and it would run out pretty quick. He'd have a pretty burn rate because he's paying himself $120,000, and then he also hired some other engineers that he would have to pay.
Okay.
Whatever overhead he had.
A year and a half, 2 years at tops.
Yeah,
well,
before he had more money.
It talked about a bunch of Series A investors ready to, invest, sign the deal, as long as he was willing to sign on Tom Shields. So he did have more people willing to invest money into him, as long as he had a competent CEO at the helm.
That's true. That actually leads into the next question. How much does Shields deserve? Should he get half?
I don't think he should get half.
We got one for no.
I feel like in a normal situation he shouldn't, but Shields sounds like he's willing to come in and get the job done, where Cosman isn't. He seems a little sheepish, and if he doesn't have someone strong at the helm, then I don't think he's going anywhere. I think he needs someone like Shields. And so what Shields brings to the table is like a future to the company. Without Shields, I feel like his company's probably not going to make it far. I'll say hypothetically, if Shields wasn't an option, I think 100% he should sell out for $2 million, because he doesn't have the bullish he doesn't have the bullish attitude to go to market to find to be a CEO of this company. He's extremely just like shying away from everything. Nice. I don't want to hurt people's feelings. I don't, Well,
it seems like all the investors are equally behind him, because the only person that is kind of thinking about the buyout is Doug. And all the investors are like, we're going to take Shields and we're going to take this to $500 million. They're all super excited. That's what they want to do. They have money kicked in. And they're all super confident that he's going to do very well. And I guess maybe in their minds, he's worth half, even though he didn't help in the invention at all. But the amount of skills that he brings to the table are worth it. So is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah. Well, Shields even says he'd be taking a major pay cut coming from his investment firm. I mean, he's going to have a drive to bring this company to success, and he has experience selling his past company for 530 something million. So he's not a beginner to this whole thing, and he understands the concept because he'd worked on it and tried to figure it out, and he was back trying to figure out what was going on at the same time Kosman was. So he's got lots of knowledge under his belt as far as it's concerned. I feel like he's the guy. And
Corbin,
without him,
Corbin, you said that he's not worth it.
I guess that my reasoning is solely based on one criteria, which is not good, and that was Shields had nothing to do with basically the upcoming of the product. And so he really didn't. I think he deserves a piece of it, but I don't think he deserves half of it.
Well, I mean, what?
But that was solely based on just him not, he didn't invent it. Sure. He didn't invent it, and that was what was based. But after hearing what Alex had to say, I feel like, in, the company's future, Shields is kind of like their best bet. And
you can think of it this way, that Doug has brought this very, very unique product that just doesn't exist. He's worked really hard on it, and he alone has gotten a lot of investors. While Tom Shields, on the other hand, his skill set isn't super unique. Would it be super difficult to find a different CEO who may be willing to take less, who could do just as well? I mean, who brings the most value to the table? Is it Shields or is it Doug? Because that's really the determining factor. Who's more valuable? I don't know.
50-50.
50-50. So they're equally as valuable.
In different ways.
In different ways. So it's like, can one function without the other? I bet Doug could grab somebody and do it with somebody else.
Co-CEOs.
Co-CEOs.
One leg.
I think that the benefit for Doug, where I think he could use another type or another CEO, is so long as that person is familiar with the software industry and is capable of leading and building a company, I think any other CEO could work. And the only thing with Shields that makes a difference is that Shields had an intimate knowledge of the need Doug ended up creating a solution to. And not only that, it sounds like he has the business acumen to go ahead and lead the company, but I think that plus in his direction, but I'm a believer that he could probably do it without Shields, but it's certainly a plus having Shields has the helm, so. If he went that way.
Maybe he should pray about it. I mean,
that's a good deal.
I'm guessing these.
We laugh, but yeah.
I'm guessing he.
I love it, Alex. I love it.
He's not LDS, but I mean, if he was, that'd be the route I'd go.
Perfect.
The next question is kind of interesting. Let's imagine you're all Doug. We're all Doug. Imagine you're a programmer and you're super boring. You like to go hiking in Boulder, Colorado. Anyway, so you've gotten this offer and you talk to your investors and you say you're planning on turning it down, but then say, what are you going to do to sweeten the pot for me? I could have taken $2 million, or I could have taken $4 million, and I'm saying, let's go for it. But what can I get in return for sticking with you guys? How can he use that to his advantage if he rejects it?
He clearly needs some cash. So
maybe to help the wife or satisfy her.
Yeah, something. So I think any sorts of just providing something that he has right then and there to provide and fill that space of sense of security that he maybe is missing. Just something to give him confidence that he's not going to have to declare bankruptcy on his house that he has a loan on and live off of credit cards. And so, yeah, just giving him some money, I think. I don't really know how that works in business, but like a Christmas bonus in the middle of the year, something like that.
They talked a lot about,
Go ahead, Corbin. I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, it just kind of talked about how, if he kind of stays in the game and kind of stays with the company, eventually, like, how much is his shares going to be diluted? Because it's like, I don't know. In that case, if he would decide not to sell out, I would feel like, he would really, because it did talk about his shares might be diluted enough to where, he has no ownership he has no say anymore in the company. And so I guess if he did stay with the company, what kind of going along the lines of that is he would kind of need to ask, like, I want at least some ownership, not to be so diluted that I'm not even a thing anymore in the company.
Maybe that's what Doug wants. Kind of like Joel said, he doesn't seem to have the character or the mantra of being a big hot shot CTO like Shields is. So maybe he prefers to take a back seat and just take money. Who knows? I think that's a good point, though. If it were me, I would want at least 50% because I made it. I invented the thing, so I want all the control. I don't want to sure, I need money and things like that, but this is my baby. But that's my perspective. Doug, on the other hand, may be worried about risk, things like that.
I think if Doug does stick it out, I think he's got potential to reap long-term benefits. And
even with dilution.
Even with dilution, yeah, I really think so. I mean, here's
another
stability.
Thing. I'm not sure the other guys have his best interest at mind. Feel that they were was really concerned about him. I think initially, Washington seemed to take him under his wings a little bit, but these other guys, they're in it for the money, which is another.
I don't think I was supposed to read the scene, but when we do read that, it's really interesting
Exactly how they kind of are feeling about him and if they really have his best interest in mind. So that, just keep in mind as we read that in the future.
What did you read?
So in the case discussion, in point 11, it says read the C case. It's literally like maybe 3 sentences long. And there's also the B case, which is like a page and a half. And it just gives you a little bit of insight of what happens, what he ends up choosing, and then what also happens after that. So it's kind of
interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of dramatic, actually. So
Where was that at?
So in the case discussion, it has number 9 has a B case, and then number 11 has a C case. And the B case is a hyperlink, and so is the C case. So the B case talks about how Doug decided to not sell the company. He decided to stay in, and they got into a heated debate between him and Shields, and Shields ultimately accepted 40% and not 50% of the common stock, which means Doug kept 60, and then he sold 20% of it to get some money. And then they started rolling out, and as Shields became CEO. But in the C case, it says, a Yieldex, 6 months later, an email from John Barr, VP, I guess in England, to Tom Shields. Tom, Doug continues to be disruptive. His salary is $170,000. He holds the title CTO, which I should have. His team wasn't functional and has been replaced. At the board meeting today, do the right things for the company. So there's some VP that wants the position as CTO. And this is only 6 months later. So he's trying to boot the creator, the founder of the company, out of the company. That's interesting.
And in case B, it talks about how when they're going on to hire this vice president of engineering, which they need, but Doug was real nervous the whole time because he felt like he was just going to overstep him and he wouldn't be able to, I guess, get his ideas across very well. But he still goes ahead and they hire this guy, and then KC comes along and they're like turning on him. And I don't know exactly what it means by do the right thing, but it didn't come off very kind. It
sounds like you do the right thing by firing him and putting me as CTO. So it's starting to sound like Joel was right. It maybe not so much about what was best for him. I think it's really his mentality. He wasn't strong enough to fight off these sharks who were very money oriented. Instead of being respectful that he's the founder and he should stay where he is, it's get out of the company you made so I can have your seat. Maybe it would have been better for him to take his money and run, because it seems like they're devouring him. Scary.
Does it mention any worth of the company during these points?
Well, if what's his pants? If Doug is getting 170, I don't know if we're worried about the worth of the company or how much money Doug is getting. Because I guess we're Doug in the situation.
I figure if they try kicking him out or firing him, I wonder if he were to sell his stocks, if he had hypothetically 60% at that point, what he would get.
So it said in case B that he ended up with 60 and then he sold 20. So if nothing changes between case B and case C, he still has 40%. How do you fire someone with 40%? He has 40%, the CEO has 40%, and investors have 20. So how do you fire him?
What does this say? It says the pre-money
20%
value.
investors and I'm sorry.
No,
The
go ahead.
40%, the 40% CEO and the 20% investors get together and they create a majority.
I see what you mean. Bummer. Go ahead, Corbin.
Well, going off of what his question was, it says right here the pre-money valuation at the Series A investment was $4.9 million.
So that's how much money was used to buy shares?
Is that what that means?
I think so.
Okay.
I'm not super certain. But that's kind of it. So I don't know.
Do we take a final vote
Well,
on our feelings?
We kind of know the outcome, so it's like, what would you do
So
differently?
those weren't hypothetical. Those were what happened.
I guess.
Oh shoot! That means I was all wrong.
Well, I don't know. How much money did he get? So he gets 60 shares. He sells 20% of it. 20% of the $6 million that he would just get in cash, and then for 6 months he makes half of $170,000. I mean, monetarily, I think he made a little bit more money even he got kicked out of his own company, which would be devastating. That would be, I would be heartbroken if the company turned on me. You know, I built this company, I made a bunch of money, and then my own company turned on me. That's so sad.
Have any of you guys seen the Apple movie where like Steve Jobs got fired from his company for a little bit?
Mhm.
I know that they kept running out of cash. They booted him, or the investors did, and then they brought him back, and then they have too much cash because Steve Jobs was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have like $250 billion in foreign accounts that they can't bring into the United States, all because Steve Jobs said you can never have too much cash. Anyway, that's kind of off track. But I don't know what we're supposed to learn from knowing kind of the finale. Like, oh, I've made a good decision, I made a bad decision. It seems like any decision that you make, you can have the best model, you can have the best predictions, but who knows what's going to happen. I never in a million years would have thought that Doug might have been forced out of his own company. That I didn't see that coming. So
Well, could he just, it says just to, so he would still, could he just still have his shares, but then just not have the title of CTO?
that could be. I would imagine that's the case. They can't force him to sell his shares, I don't think. But they could fire him, right, Joel?
Yeah.
Yeah, they could fire him, but and he'd still own his shares, but it's a private company, so there's if no one ever wanted to buy his shares, he'd be sitting there basically with no real value unless there was an IPO or something like that happened, and then they become publicly traded. Then he could sell his shares, but as it is right now, I'm kind of in the same situation. I own some shares in a company, but it's a privately held company. So unless buys the company, or it starts to become publicly traded, it really does me no good at all.
Right. Maybe to protect himself, he should have kept a little bit over half. If he kept 51%, no one could push him out because he's the king. He's the owner.
Well, he's got to keep 51, where the others can't have more.
Right.
That would be difficult though with bringing on more investors.
Well, heck, I mean, he had 40%. How hard would it be to keep 11% more? I don't know.
Well, I feel like if he went to like a Series B, Series C investments as they brought on, I feel like his percentage would be diluted.
More and more and more until
he
has.
I mean, if he started at 60.
I hadn't had a chance.
Bumping him down below 50 would happen pretty quick.
I hadn't had a chance to read that B and C, but I think it kind of validates.
I skimmed it as we were talking.
Me too.
He should just take the money and get out of the deal and just go be a good employee somewhere. That's kind of how I feel.
At turn,
So.
Take it out as $50,000 over 20 years and have another career. And so he's like getting paid real good each year.
Sure. We also have to take into consideration in KC where it talks about this guy who's trying to push him out. Maybe the CEO doesn't agree with John Barr, the VP, who is trying to take Doug's spot. Maybe he doesn't agree at all. Maybe he wants to keep him there. Who knows? Maybe this is one guy's opinion. So it's hard to. Maybe Doug's been super great for the company thus far. Who knows? Not a lot of information. Anyway, that's kind of the whole shebang. And it's 9 o'clock. We got it's Friday night stuff to do. Does anyone else have any other comments,
all right,
or concerns, or compliments?
Were we supposed to have a unanimous vote with all of us, or doesn't say
anything about it?
Mm-mm. So I agree that Doug did something.
Well, it says here that there's another vote.
He definitely did something.
0.9. 6.9 says that we needed to have another vote.
Oh,
To hire Tom Barr, which was the vice president of engineering who wanted to get him fired. And so after reading,
Oh,
I think none of us, at least
yeah.
I
Let's fire that hoser.
don't hire him. And
I'm biased now.
I'm biased. I know too much. All right, Nitorino. Well, let's meet again.
Tuesday,
Tuesday, 7:30, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock,
7.
7.
I don't know.
I don't know.
It just depends. Tuesdays hours are different, so.
Okay.
So
Anytime works for me, as long as I can get my stuff working. I apologize for that, by the way.
Hey, no worries. Technical difficulties happen.
Who's taking the lead next week?
Yeah, I was surprised to learn that I was the lead.
I can.
Okay. Cool. Well, I will
Tuesday, 7:30.
works good.
I will post this and send you guys the link so you guys can be
Okay.
done right now.
Okie dokie.
Sounds good.
All right. See you guys on the
Thanks, bye.
flippy floppy.
Thanks, guys.